Welcome to the Business Spotlight. I'm Brenda Hector, and with me today is Freda Newton from Jacobite Cruises. Freda, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me today.
Thank you for having me.
So, who is Freda, and what do you do? Just introduce yourself to the viewers, please.
Oh gosh, you said it was only a short slot. I'm not sure we've got that much time. It's quite difficult to say, I guess, because obviously this is about the business, and I guess I'm defined a lot by the business. So, Jacobite Cruises, we have full-time equivalents, about 50 people. In the summer, we have 70 employees. My claim to fame at the moment is that in 2019, we opened a new restaurant and shop. It opened in July 19, and as everyone knows, closed in March 2020. And we borrowed £3 million to do it. So yeah, ooh, as they say. So yeah, I think we've just actually recently won the Inverness Chamber of Commerce award for resilience. I think proving that that the business has come through that and survived. So I guess at nearing a very significant birthday, you can say that I'm a survivor. I think that's probably the one of the ways to put it.
So what got you through that then? What?
I think it was just a belief that we would do it, and that we would do everything in our power to make that happen. We would apply for every grant that was available. So thank you all government support agencies for what they did through that time. I think as we come out of it and become more normal, shall we say, I think sometimes we forget about the amount of support that businesses had through that time. So there was that, and just very much the belief that we would get through it and that we had to work through it as a team. I mean, we went in, we started making teas and coffees. My finance director was washing the dishes. The chef, who was bored to tears, sort of came in, and we were serving sandwiches out the doors, and because we had quite a good outdoor area. But yeah, I think, as everyone knows, for tourism businesses, it was a tough time.
And is that the toughest? That I assume that's the toughest challenge that you've faced in your years in business.
I would say it was the scariest. I think toughest, possibly would be when I bought Jacobite Cruises, and I bought it in 2002, and it was very much. I was the only female in the whole company. And it was just, there was always the, oh, you can't do that, or this is a boat, not a bus timetable, because my background actually is in transport and in the coaching industry. So it was very much me wanting to change things and people not wanting to change with the new regime. So that was probably quite tough. But I'd taken an employee with me from my previous work. So I think the fact that there was two of us there, kind of when we were ever backed into a corner, we could always come out fighting together, and we had each other's backs. So it was good to have somebody there, shall we say, on my side.
So you bought, if I'm right in thinking, when I've talked to you before, you bought an opportunity. There was a lot you could improve when you took over. Is that correct? So what did that growth look like?
Yeah, I mean, it was 2002, so it's a long time ago now. And it's funny because I describe it, and I think business, I describe it as common sense. And when people try and teach business, I think it's quite difficult, because what I was seeing in the business were things like they didn't have fridges, they were selling instant coffee, there was no heating on the boats, There was no double glazing, so if there was heating, it would have steamed up. Nobody would have seen out the windows on a nasty day. So it was very much a case of what I thought was common sense, and the growth was almost immediate as we sort of changed the marketing, upgraded the vessel, and as I say, it all came quite naturally. And then suddenly, maybe about 5 or 6 years in, it kind of flattened, and it was like, oh, we're not growing anymore. What's happened? So it kind of became more difficult. You had, oh right, okay, what can we do to keep growing? And that was kind of when I decided that I needed to go out a bit more with Visit Britain and Visit Scotland and go places on their overseas missions to try and get people to see that a lot of companies were driving past Loch Ness. And I was trying to compare Loch Ness to the Eiffel Tower or to Edinburgh Castle or to Ayers Rock. You know, that if you're in a country, or, you know, Sydney Harbour Bridge, you want to go and see those iconic places. And I felt that they should be on Loch Ness, not just driving past it as part of their tour. So that was kind of a spur on to sort of more growth. And the growth that we got in that time kind of has stayed with us. So, you know, the expense of going overseas just sort of stayed the whole time. But I'm sure I've said it to you before, but probably one of the most memorable moments in buying Jacobite cruises was when I was actually working for my ex-husband, which everyone laughs at. And they said, well, why did you go and buy Jacobite cruises? And it was, I was trying to get away from my ex-husband and working from him. And I remember sitting at my desk and being absolutely terrified of picking up the phone to ask the then owner of Jacobite Cruises if he was selling it. And it's such a, when you look back on it, it's such a silly thing, because what would he have said? All he could have said was no. And I think the Scottish psyche is such that you don't think you should push yourself forward. You don't think that you can go and ask somebody something, that you very much sort of, oh no, that's not polite. You know, you can't do that sort of thing. And I think that's a great learning thing. You know, what's the worst thing that can happen when you pick up a phone or speak to somebody? You know, there really isn't any collateral damage from picking up a phone and speaking to somebody. And as I say, the fact that he actually said, come talk to me, as I say, is the rest is history.
So the business wasn't on the market?
No.
Isn't that interesting? Yes. So there are probably lots of people who are thinking that they want to get into business, or they've seen a business and they think, I could do that better, or there's an opportunity. If there's an opportunity there, I want to do it. Yeah, and they're not picking up or not sending.
Yes.
So yeah.
So as you know, if anyone's wanting any advice, go and ask the question. I mean, there was a little bit, you know, of history to it, to the extent that I knew Rod was approaching retirement age. He's actually, when I bought Jacobite, he's the same as I was now. And I didn't know if he had children, and that the children might work in the business, or that they might want to take on the business. You know, so, but I asked the question. And that's where we are today. So very, very, very pleased I made that choice.
Fantastic. And I would imagine lots of other people are as well, your team and your customers. And so what about, I guess you can't have grown the business, you can't have invested over 3 million in your new restaurant and all of that without building a successful team. Do you have any insights into how to do that well?
I think it's a combination of trust and communication. But I think, I mean, I'm also a person that doesn't believe, like, the tag entrepreneur, to me, that's somebody that, you know, has had an innovative idea and has done something on their own. What I do, I've just taken a business that was already there. So I don't really think of that, but they do say people that sort of lead businesses can be a bit maverick. I mean, I've got a boat. My boats are called Warrior, Rebel, and Maverick. So, you know, and a boat is always a she. So I think that probably sums up my personalities. There's a bit of rebel, there's a bit of warrior, and there's a bit of a maverick in there as well. So it's communication and taking the team and taking trust. And I think now, as I move forward to my more mature years, shall we call it, that I have to see how that then allows them the freedom to take the business forward, and that the business continues to grow and doesn't stagnate because I'm not necessarily there as much as I was before.
So how do you find the right people? Because a lot of business owners struggle to find the right people to join the team.
It's funny. I've known most of the people that have been in my senior team, so I've gone out and asked them. It's not because an advert, for example, like our finance director Alison, she was our auditor and worked at Ernst & Young she was our auditor for 15 years and had worked at Ernst & Young basically most of our adult life. And I went to her and said, look, we need somebody. The first thing I felt that we needed as a business was to make sure that the numbers were right. So my first sort of senior hire had to be in the accounting side. So I went and asked her, and she said, I might be interested. So that was kind of how that happened, you know. So then
I think so. The business wasn't actually for sale, but you went and asked. The new hire wasn't actually in the market for a new job, but you went and asked. Yeah.
Well, as you say, it's either a case of that she might know somebody. She was in the accounting network, so she would know a lot more people than I did that might be looking for something. And she knew the business, so she knew our accounts as it was, and she knew the structure. And she was at all the closing audit meetings. She'd help us do projections for various business plans. So she was, she could fit in quite quickly, quite easily, because she had knowledge of the business. So, and a woman, of course. So yeah. So that was that. In fact, for a long time we were far more female orientated in our business than what we were male, and I think there needs to be a balance. Even as a sort of a female leader, I think you need to have that balance of all genders, so that it doesn't become too one-sided. Yeah.
I think diversity is at the heart of successful teams, isn't it? Different outlooks, different backgrounds, different perspectives is going to really help things to grow.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's been the analogy. I mean, in my early days, I believed that everyone should be able to do everything, so that we would have a skipper serving in the bar or in the ticket office, and that everybody, that we would have somebody that could drive a bus for our tours, and that could also be the skipper. So we had that everybody, the person normally in the office, if somebody was off sick, could be a crew member. And then somebody sort of said to me, well, actually, would you make your goalkeeper the striker, or put your striker to become the goalkeeper? So it's not necessary, I do like flexibility, but sometimes it doesn't work. So, I think you've just got to see how you want to build your team, because they are all different. The football analogy is quite good, because everyone's different and they should be able to play to their strengths. And I think it's allowing people to do that.
It's a team, isn't it? Yeah.
So, and I think I think as you develop through teams, you realize things like that you want a good fit, but not everybody for everybody to be the same, or to be the same in the same team doesn't necessarily mean that they have the same strengths. So yeah, I think I've matured more in allowing people to be more individual and not have clones, shall we say, because then you're not going to grow and you're not going to make anything different.
So where did the I always say that, you know, you can't do this alone. You know, it's lonely being in business at the top of a business, whether it's a small business or a bigger business. So you need support, don't you? Where's the support come for you over the years?
Yeah, I think there's been a lot in sort of peer groups, you know, coming together. I have used various coaches, excuse me, through time. Sometimes because I've got specific issues or specific people to deal with. And sometimes it's been on business structure. So we at Jacobite followed a plan called Hospitality Assured. And basically part of that was being mentored through the processes of this award. And the award was very wholesome, because it wanted to know how strong you were in health and safety, how strong you were in marketing, what your processes and procedures were like. Now, I love marketing, so anything about marketing, you know, we would get 10 out of 10. When it comes to processes and procedures, and I think, you know, again, a lot of business leaders, it's, oh, again, that's for somebody else to do. That's the boring bits, but it's all part of the business, and it all makes up the holistic business, and the business being stronger if you have these things in place.
So had you always wanted to be a business owner?
Oh, that's a terrible question, and it'll take a long time to answer. No, it's a very good question. My family were all in business.
Mm-hmm.
So around the lunch table, the dinner table, the breakfast table, it was all about business. So my father had his own business, my brother, my two sisters, and there's 12 years difference between me and my younger sister, and 18 years between myself and my brother. And so I was the baby. So it was kind of like, you're going to go into business. That's it. You know, it's like there wasn't really another thought. I didn't know what business in any shape or form, but it was always that. And it was kind of the philosophy that if you worked hard, that you got the rewards. So, you know, that was very much the family philosophy. The one thing I would say is that I was the only one in the family that went on to further education. And I did a business studies degree. And if I had to lead my life again, I don't think I would have. I felt it was kind of jack of all trades, master of none. And I perhaps would have preferred to have specialised. But it was also interesting as well, because during my career, I ended up working as the managing director at Scottish CityLink Coaches, the city coaches, who were owned by the National Express Group, which were a PLC. And I loved that job. And it was working for a big company. Albeit I was the boss reporting to a board, but it was still a really good job. So I'm not sure if things had been different, would I have looked for a different career path and not necessarily started up my own business. But life gets in the way and you deal with it. Yeah, so that was that.
Any regrets?
No, I don't believe you should ever regret anything in life, because I think everything's a learning journey. And I have read quite a lot of psychology, you know, philosophy books, and I do, when I go on holiday, I always take one business book with me. But to me, if you get something wrong, that's fine. Just admit it, move on, and don't do it again. You don't want to repeat mistakes, but there's also regretting is a kind of a negativity that I don't think you should have.
To it, is there? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm where I am, and I'm very happy that I'm where I am, and that's kind of the way that I look at it. I'm a survivor.
Or award-winning survivor. So, those books then, if there was one business book that you would recommend to someone looking to start or build a business, what book would it be?
Ooh. I actually don't think it would be a business book. I think the one that sticks in my mind, that if anyone's ever in a place that they're not happy, is Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway.
Oh, yes. Yes.
And I think I guess that's my kind of philosophy. It feels horrible to go and do something, but to get to the other side, it's a bit like crossing the Rubicon. You're looking at this river and you think you're going to drown, but actually you can't swim across it. And unless you put your first foot in it, you're not going to get to the other side. So yeah, it's Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway. I don't actually know who the author is, but that's the book I would choose.
Got it here. I can't think. Feel the Fear and Do It Anywhere. Susan Jeffers, PhD.
That's it.
I've not written many notes as we've been talking, but I wrote warrior, rebel, maverick, feel the fear. I think that's the best the finishing message for this conversation, Freda. Be a warrior, a rebel, and a maverick. Feel the fear and do it anyway. And 20 odd years on, award-winning entrepreneur and business owner. Thank you so much for joining me on the Business Spotlight today, Freda. It's been a pleasure to speak to you.
Okay, thank you very much for having me, and I enjoyed it too. Thank you.